Quit attempting to distort the facts, Jason. I'm certain of what I witnessed. My fingers clenched the kitchen counter's rim, knuckles bleaching white, the cold granite pressed into my palms, contrasting sharply with the fire spreading across my cheeks. Here we go, once more fabricating stories in your imagination. Jason's mouth twisted into that recognizable sneer while he positioned himself against the doorway. This explains precisely why your recent piece was turned down. You discover plots in every corner. Michaela, the reference to my declined article struck like a blow to my core. Being a journalist, my reputation meant everything, and he understood exactly which wounds would cause maximum damage. I am Michaela Anderson, 34 years old, and I'm beginning to doubt all my previous assumptions about our union. Half a decade earlier, I was climbing the ranks at the Houston Chronicle, celebrated for my keen perception and meticulous focus. These days, I question every insight, each recollection, every intuitive feeling. This evening's dispute began when I observed Jason dining with Sarah from his workplace Identica. Sarah, he promised he never encounters beyond office hours. When I mentioned it, he didn't simply refuse it. He manipulated me into feeling insane for even bringing it up. My entire day was filled with client appointments, he declared, adopting that condescending inflection I've learned to despise. You likely spotted someone resembling me. Recall last month's incident when you believed you saw me at the shopping center. I did recall, or believed I did, yet now, similar to numerous other memories, it seemed unclear and doubtful. Was my perception genuinely failing? The harder I attempted to grasp today's details, the more they appeared to dissolve. Standing in our kitchen, observing Jason's self-assured expression, my attention was caught by something a slip had dropped from his coat when he entered. It lay partially exposed beneath the counter's edge from Cafe Luna, stamped with today's date. The very location where I'd spotted him with Sarah. My pulse quickened, but I maintained composure. For the first time in months, I possessed something tangible, something genuine, something he couldn't manipulate. That's when I realized I required additional evidence. Jason and I first encountered each other at a fundraising event I was covering for the publication. He appeared charming, accomplished, and genuinely fascinated by my profession. A gorgeous journalist possessing intelligence and drive, he'd commented, causing me to blush. What more could any man desire? Reflecting now, I should have recognized how he consistently highlighted my looks before acknowledging my skills. Our rapid courtship became office gossip. Jason would deliver extravagant floral displays to my workspace and surprise me with meal deliveries. My coworkers gushed over these romantic acts, though Rachel, my supervisor, appeared less enthusiastic. Exercise caution, she cautioned one afternoon. Men who enjoy creating public displays frequently harbor hidden motives. I brushed off her warning as pessimism from someone who'd spent excessive time in journalism. The transformations occurred so slowly that I hardly recognized them initially. Jason recommended I decline the senior investigative reporter advancement because it would require extended time away from home. You're already under such pressure, sweetheart. I'm simply concerned about you, he'd say. When I resisted, he'd remind me how my previous major investigation had nearly caused a mental collapse, conveniently omitting that my stress had originated from his constant questioning of my sources and methods. My bond with Rachel deteriorated after I rejected the promotion. She attempted to discuss it, but I defended Jason's worry for my welfare. He simply desires what's beneficial for me. I maintained, though something deep inside twisted at those words. Rachel's disappointment was obvious, and our weekly guidance meetings gradually reduced to quick corridor conversations. I maintained one personal commitment, preserving my modest individual savings account. It wasn't substantial, merely several $1,000s I'd saved before meeting Jason, but it belonged solely to me. He remained unaware of its existence, and something consistently prevented me from revealing it. The same intuition that made me store my old notebooks in my office desk rather than bringing them home. The Cafe Luna receipt continued burning in my thoughts. I desired to confront him with it, to compel him to admit the truth, but experience had shown me he would simply weave another pattern of rejection and bewilderment. Instead, I slipped it into my wallet beside an old business card Rachel had provided months earlier. On the reverse, she'd inscribed, "When you're prepared to discuss, I'm available." I observed my hands trembling slightly as I closed my wallet. The woman I once was, the self-assured reporter who could detect deception, instantly seemed like a complete stranger now. Yet somewhere within me, that investigative intuition was stirring once more, and it was indicating something was terribly, terribly amiss. The following morning, I chose to follow my former reporter's intuition rather than proceeding directly to the office. I visited Cafe Luna. The pleasant barista recognized Jason Key was evidently a frequent customer. Oh yes, him and Sarah from the company are constant visitors here, she mentioned casually. They occupy the corner table beside the window. My stomach dropped. Not only had Jason been dishonest about the lunches, but he frequented the place enough to have a regular spot. I requested coffee to calm my anxiety, and that's when I overheard two women conversing at the counter. Did you notice Sarah's social media posts? The one featuring her work spouse at attractive financial advisor. They appear so comfortable in all their lunch photographs. I nearly dropped my cup. With shaking fingers, I retrieved my phone and searched for Sarah's profile. It was private, but her profile image made my blood freeze. It was her and Jason, heads touching, laughing at what was obviously their usual table. Upon reaching the office, I discovered 3 missed calls from Jason and a message. Hope you're not still bothered about yesterday. You understand how you become when stressed. Love you. I stared at the text until the words became blurry. 5 years of similar messages flooded my memory, always appearing, caring on the surface, always suggesting I was the issue. I opened my desk drawer and retrieved my old journals. Browsing through entries that recorded similar incidents, the pattern became suddenly crystal clear. A door knock startled me. It was Andrea from the city desk. "Hey, did you hear they're reorganizing the investigative department? Rachel's departing." What? Why? Rachel had worked at the paper for 15 years. Official explanation is budget reductions. But rumors suggest pressure from influential individuals unhappy with her recent corruption investigation, Andrea whispered. Apparently, someone complained to the board regarding her aggressive reporting approach. My thoughts raced to last week's charity board gathering, the one Jason had attended as a new participant. He'd mentioned having an intriguing discussion about journalistic ethics. I felt nauseated. Rachel had been my guide, my supporter, and now she was being forced out? Had Jason contributed to this? Was this punishment for her attempting to warn me? I pulled out my phone and activated my recording application. Time to begin documenting everything. No more self-doubt. No more allowing him to distort reality. I had been an excellent investigative reporter once and still knew how to collect evidence. But as I configured the app, a notification appeared. On my screen calendar, reminder for dinner at his parents' house tonight, I needed to proceed carefully. If Jason became suspicious, he would discover a method to make me question everything again. Dinner at the Winters residence was consistently an exercise in maintaining facades. Jason's mother, Clara, doted on him while his father, Robert, controlled conversations with extended monologues about his legal practice. Tonight, however, something felt different. There was tension present, unspoken words lingering heavily between bites of Clara's roast. So Michaela Clara began placing down her wine glass. Jason mentions you've been having workplace difficulties lately, experiencing trouble with your articles. I noticed Jason's slight smirk behind his napkin. Actually, I'm performing quite well, I responded, maintaining a steady voice. In fact, I'm developing a piece about dishonest business practices. I saw Jason's smirk disappear. Oh, what sort of practices? Robert suddenly appeared interested. Leaning forward, financial manipulation, concealed relationships, conflicts of interest. I sipped water while observing Jason's knuckles whiten around his fork. It's remarkable what people believe they can conceal. Clara quickly interrupted. Jason's been excelling at the company. Did he mention his promotion? Promotion? This was my first time hearing about it. No, he hasn't shared that news. It's not confirmed yet. Mom, Jason interjected sharply. I was waiting for the appropriate moment to discuss it. The position became available after Sarah's husband accepted that Denver job. Clara continued, oblivious to Jason's discomfort. Such a pity she had to resign. You two collaborated so effectively. The room seemed to spin slightly. Sarah was married and leaving. I managed to maintain a neutral expression while processing this information. Later that evening, during our drive home, Jason remained unusually silent. I broke the quiet. When were you planning to inform me about Sarah's departure? Don't begin, Meek. It just occurred today, like the Cafe Luna lunch just occurred. The words escaped before I could prevent them. Jason's grip intensified on the steering wheel. I told you were imagining things. This is precisely why I no longer share work news with you. You always twist everything into some wild conspiracy. I saw the receipt, Jason. He laughed, but without humor. What receipt? Are you searching my pockets now? This is becoming pathetic. Stop manipulating me. The words burst from me. I know what's real. I know what I witnessed. Jason pulled over so abruptly that I jerked forward against my seatbelt. His voice became dangerously calm. You know what's real? What's real is that you're experiencing another breakdown. What's real is that I've spent years attempting to protect you from yourself. What's real is that you're one paranoid accusation away from losing your position. And believe me, after the stunt you performed at dinner, mentioning deceptive practices that could happen sooner than you think. The threat was unmistakable. I remained silent, my mind racing. I had thought I was prepared to confront him, but I had underestimated his ability to reverse situations on me as we pulled into our driveway. My phone buzzed a text from Rachel. Received your message. Meeting approved. Sources at Crossroads. Diner tomorrow, 7 a.m. Some things you need to understand. A spark of hope. But as I deleted the message, I caught Jason observing me in the darkness, his eyes reflecting the dashboard lights like a predator's. The Crossroads diner was nearly vacant when I arrived, my recorder safely concealed in my purse. Rachel sat in a corner booth with 2 untouched coffees before her, but she wasn't alone. Sarah, Jason's colleague, sat beside her, appearing nervous but determined. I'm departing for Denver tomorrow, Sarah stated without preamble as I slid into the booth. But there are things you must know about Jason, about the firm, about what really occurred with your stories. Rachel placed a USB drive on the table. Financial records, she explained. Sarah's been collecting evidence for months. Evidence of what? My mouth felt dry. Jason isn't merely manipulating you. Sarah's voice barely rose above a whisper. He's been manipulating company accounts, channeling money through shell corporations, and he's been using your reputation as a journalist to help conceal it. My hands trembled as Sarah explained how Jason had been systematically undermining my credibility for years. Every time I approached a story that might expose financial irregularities at his firm, he would begin his campaign of subtle manipulation, making me doubt my instincts until I abandoned the lead. The board meeting about Rachel wasn't about journalistic integrity, Sarah continued. Jason convinced them that she was encouraging your delusional tendencies by assigning you investigative pieces. He showed them your therapy records. My what? The room seemed to tilt. He's had access to your private therapy sessions for the past 2 years, Rachel said gently. Dr. Martinez is his cousin. Those sessions, they weren't about helping you. They were about gathering ammunition. The coffee before me grew cold as they outlined the extent of Jason's deception. The therapy sessions I'd agreed to attend at his suggestion, where I'd revealed my doubts and fears, had been nothing but an information source for him to use against me. Dr. Martinez had been feeding him everything, helping him perfect his manipulation. There's more, Sarah said, retrieving her phone. She showed me photographs of documents, text messages, and emails. Jason's been positioning himself to assume the firm's executive position. He needed someone unstable in his life, someone he could reference as the reason he'd been distracted whenever questions about the missing money arose. That's why he pursued you so aggressively, Rachel added. A journalist with a history of uncovering corporate fraud. Making you doubt yourself wasn't just about control, it was insurance. The realization struck me like a physical blow. Every romantic gesture, every apparent act of concern, every suggestion about my mental health, it had all been calculated. I wasn't just a wife being manipulated. I was a liability being managed. Why are you showing me this now? I asked. Because he's becoming careless, Sarah replied. The amount of money involved is larger than ever, and he's starting to make mistakes. When I confronted him, he threatened to destroy my career, said no one would believe me over him, just like no one would believe you. I reached for my purse, fingers brushing against my recorder. 2 weeks of secret recordings suddenly felt insignificant compared to what I now knew, but combined with Sarah's evidence, I need copies of everything, I said, my journalist's instincts finally drowning out the voice of doubt Jason had planted in my head. And then we need to discuss how we're going to bring him down. That evening, I carefully copied Sarah's evidence onto my own secured drive while Jason was at the gym. My hands shook as I examined the financial records, text messages, and emails that proved his deception. I had just finished when I heard his car pull into the driveway. "You seem distracted," Jason said over dinner, studying my face. "Everything okay? At work?" "Just tired," I replied, forcing a smile. "Actually, I've been thinking about what you said about my mental health. Maybe we should invite your parents over this weekend. I'd like to talk to everyone about getting help." The hint of a satisfied smirk played at his lips. "That's very mature of you, honey. I'll call them tonight." The next day, Rachel helped me prepare the final pieces of our plan. We organized the evidence, including my recordings, Sarah's documents, and statements from others who'd been threatened by Jason. Everything was ready for Saturday's dinner. But on Friday afternoon, my blood ran cold when I checked my email. There was a message from the newspaper's board of directors requesting an immediate meeting about my concerning behavior and mental fitness for journalism. Jason had somehow discovered our plan. I rushed to Rachel's office, but she was already on the phone with HR. "They're suspending you, pending an investigation," she said, covering the mouthpiece. "Jason sent them videos, apparently from your therapy sessions with Dr. Martinez." My mind raced. The therapy sessions had been recorded. Of course they had. Jason never left anything to chance. "The board meeting is in an hour," Rachel continued. "They're going to try to discredit you before you can expose anything." I felt the walls closing in. Everything we'd planned was falling apart. If I lost my credibility now, no one would believe the evidence. Just as Jason had planned all along, that's when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Need to talk. Important. Clara Winters, Jason's mother." I hesitated, then agreed to meet her at a cafe near the newspaper office. I had 40 minutes before the board meeting. It was worth the risk. Clara was already there when I arrived, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "I found something," she said without preamble, pulling out an old leather planner after that dinner when you mentioned deceptive practices. I started going through Robert's old records. She opened the planner, revealing handwritten notes about offshore accounts, shell corporations, and a familiar name, Jason Sperm. "Robert wasn't just Jason's father," Clara said, her voice shaking. "He was his mentor in everything, including fraud. They've been doing this for years, using wives and girlfriends as covers. I was Robert's unstable wife 30 years ago." My recorder was already running in my pocket as Clara detailed decades of financial manipulation, gaslighting, and corporate fraud. This wasn't just about Jason anymore. It was about a generational pattern of abuse and corruption. I checked the time. 20 minutes until the board meeting. "Clara, would you be willing to come with me? There are some people who need to hear this." She straightened her spine, a lifetime of fear and doubt falling away from her face. Yes, It's time someone believed us. I walked into the boardroom with Clara by my side, finding exactly what I expected. Jason standing at the front, playing clips from my therapy sessions on the projector. His father, Robert, sat among the board members, looking smug. Their expressions of concern were so perfectly practiced, so convincingly sincere. "Ah, Michaela," Jason said smoothly. "We were just discussing your episodes." "Yes, I can see that," I replied, plugging my USB drive into the laptop. "But I think the board might be interested in some other episodes as well." The screen filled with financial records as I played Sarah's evidence. Then came my recordings of Jason's gaslighting, followed by Clara's devastating testimony about the generational pattern of fraud and psychological abuse. "Mother, what are you doing?" Jason's voice cracked, but Clara stood firm. "Exactly what you taught me to never do, telling the truth." Robert jumped to his feet, but the board chairman raised his hand. "Mr. Winters, sit down. Mrs. Anderson, please continue. The police and SEC are already on their way," I announced, watching the color drain from Jason's face. "They're particularly interested in those offshore accounts you and your father have been hiding." As if on cue, officers entered the boardroom, the look of utter disbelief on Jason's face as they read. His rights was something I would never forget. "No one will believe you. He tried one last time," as they led him away. "You're just being crazy again." "No, Jason," I replied calmly. "I'm finally being sane." The story broke the next day, not just in our paper, but across all major news outlets. Corporate dynasty falls, father-son fraud scheme exposed, Jason and Robert's arrests made headlines, and their elaborate web of financial manipulation and psychological abuse finally came to light. Clara moved in with her sister, starting therapy with a real counselor. Sarah's evidence proved invaluable to the prosecution, and she found a better position at a firm in Denver. Rachel was reinstated at the paper with a formal apology and a promotion. As for me, I took on a new beat investigating corporate fraud and psychological abuse in the workplace. My first series of articles focused on helping others recognize the signs of gaslighting in professional settings. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of people came forward with their own stories. I ran into Jason one last time at the courthouse during his sentencing. He looked smaller somehow, his confident smirk replaced by defeated resignation. When the judge announced the 15-year sentence, he turned to look at me, perhaps expecting to see doubt in my eyes. Instead, he found clarity. That evening, I sat at my desk looking at the last picture of us together, the one from our anniversary dinner, where it all began to unravel. I deleted it and opened a new document. The cursor blinked, waiting for words that had been trapped inside me for too long. "Trust your instincts," I typed. "They're trying to tell you something." For the first time in years, I knew mine were finally leading me in the right direction.